Thousands of demonstrators gathered in Riga's Dome Square to protest Latvia's possible withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention. Pope Leo XIV received Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas at the Apostolic Palace to discuss a solution to the war in Gaza. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in Riga's Dome Square on Thursday evening to protest Latvia's possible withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention. It's the second protest in just over a week, with 5,000 people gathering in front of Parliament last Wednesday. It follows a vote passed by Latvia's parliament last week to leave the international treaty, which is aimed at supporting women who are victims of violence. The decision sparked outrage from civil society organizations who saw it as backtracking on fundamental rights. Earlier this week, Latvia's president sent the law back to Parliament for review, which then decided to postpone the final decision until November next year, when a new parliament will have taken office. Critics say the delay does not resolve the issue, and the protest's organizers argued the need for society to continue to stand up against politicians. The EU as a whole acceded to the Istanbul Convention in 2023, making it a legally binding agreement for the 27 member states in areas falling under the EU's competence. Pope Leo XIV received Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas at the Apostolic Palace on Thursday. The meeting coincided with the 10th anniversary of the global agreement between the Holy See and the State of Palestine. The Pontiff and Abbas shared their concern for the situation in the Gaza Strip, emphasizing the urgent need to help the civilian population and to work towards a political solution to the conflict. "We must work for peace with a view to a two-state solution," the Vatican statement read. The audience had been planned for weeks. It is the first time Pope Leo XIV met with the Palestinian president since he was elected. Before their meeting in the Vatican, the two had spoken on the phone in July, when the Pope reiterated the key points of any diplomatic dialogue: full respect for international humanitarian law, the protection of civilians and holy sites, and the prohibition of indiscriminate use of force and forced displacement of the population.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas' visit highlights the Vatican's closeness to the Palestinian cause. The meeting with Pope Leo XIV in the Vatican on Thursday focused on these and on efforts to end the war in Gaza and provide humanitarian assistance to civilians. In the next few hours, Abbas will also meet with Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Giorgia Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
Belgium has convened the National Security Council after drones were spotted over military bases and airports over the past days, causing flight disruptions. To tackle this threat, authorities consider establishing an airspace surveillance center as well as introducing mandatory registration of drones. The drone incursions occurred while the EU is putting pressure on Belgium to confiscate Russian frozen assets held at Euroclear in Brussels so that reconstruction loans to Ukraine can be issued. Despite lacking proof, Russia is widely suspected of being behind the drone incidents.
You must ask yourself who has benefited from this, and this is definitely Russia. I think the effect that they seek is double. One, it's intimidation of our decision makers, perhaps linked to the decisions that has to be made about Euroclear, and two, it's to try to divide the public opinion. Perhaps some people would be inclined to say, well, if only we drop Ukraine, then we will not have this problem.
The Belgian defense minister is expected to table a €50 million investment plan for an anti-drone initiative on Friday. Belgium is also considering the option of shooting down invading drones.
Belgium specifically has learned that we need a legal framework that allows to shoot down drones, and of course we actually need the military capacity that can do this, and this will now be speeded up so that we will be ready very soon to deal with it.
The Russian embassy in Brussels has denied any involvement in drone operation in the Belgian airspace. Drone incursions have recently occurred in multiple European countries such as Denmark, Germany and Norway. Poland and Romania have already decided to deploy new weapon systems to defend against drones.
Poland experiences incidents that regularly spark discussions about the country's security. Research centers analyzed Poles' declared behaviors in the event of armed conflict. According to an Ibris poll, half of citizens would report to defend the country. Meanwhile, Pollster indicates that 26% of Poles declare readiness to support the military, while 57% have no intention of getting involved.
Chociaż ten procent wydaje się niewielki, prawda, tam tylko około 1/4 ludzi gotowych do obrony kraju, no to jednak z tej 1/4 da się sformować całkiem porządną armię. Kolejną sprawą jest trochę brak zaufania do armii, ponieważ tylko połowa Polaków mniej więcej stwierdza, że nasza armia byłaby w stanie obronić ten kraj. Jeśli idę do wojska, to chciałbym być pewien, że zostanę dobrze przeszkolony i będę dobrze dowodzony. Jeżeli nie mam takiej pewności, no to cóż, no morale trochę spada w tym momencie.
The poll shows that young people are the least inclined to fight for their country. Euronews decided to ask them about it in person.
Myślę, że zostałbym w kraju. Na tyle bardzo lubię Polskę i ostatnio coraz bardziej ją lubię, że myślę, że zostałbym tutaj i nie wiem, w jakiej formie bym jej bronił, ale na pewno bym tu został.
Myślę, że forma wojny jest o tyle nieznana, że nie jestem w stanie jeszcze podjąć decyzji, natomiast sam się zastanawiam, czy mam jeszcze taką odwagę, jaką nie wiem, mieli nasi dziadkowie, pradziadkowie kiedyś.
Jeżeli mamy nawiązywać do naszego powstania warszawskiego albo takich rzeczy, no to oczywiście. Ale jeżeli teraz to by były jakieś polityczne zagrania, no to chyba musiałabym się naprawdę długo zastanawiać.
Researchers also asked respondents about their political views. In a situation of war, voters of the Law and Justice Party and the Civic Coalition are most likely to fight.
Climate activists have projected messages about climate change onto Rio de Janeiro's iconic buildings as world leaders arrive in Brazil for the UN Climate Summit, COP30. The installations displayed slogans such as Polluters Pay, Protect Forests and People, and COP30 Brazil Amazon. In Belém, the venue of the climate conference, activists from several organizations protested, demanding stronger action from politicians to fight climate change. They're accusing lawmakers of empty promises and pledges and are demanding this year's summit be one focused on action and not words. It comes after the UN published concerning figures in a recent report, asserting that current climate targets will not curb global warming and its harmful impacts. For 30 years, world leaders and politicians have gathered at the annual COP summit to come up with initiatives to curb climate change, responsible for many disasters like ice melting, hurricanes, and storms. The Earth's temperature, however, has continued to rise due to excessive pollution, and with it worsening extreme weather conditions.
A state of emergency has been declared in the Philippines after Typhoon Kalmegi left at least 140 people dead, with fears the death toll may rise in what is the biggest natural disaster to hit the country this year. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said his state of national calamity measure will allow the government to disburse emergency funds faster and prevent food hoarding and overpricing. The typhoon on Wednesday began to blow away from western Palawan province into the South China Sea with sustained winds of up to 130 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 180 kilometers per hour. The Philippines Office of Civil Defense said nearly 2 million people have been impacted by the typhoon's devastation. Local officials said around 127 people were still missing, many of them in the severely affected central province of Cebu, a bustling province that was still recovering from a 6.9 magnitude earthquake that struck in September. On the night of January 13 to the 14th, 1993, the Jan Eveliusz ferry set sail from the port of Świnoujście. However, no one could have predicted that the voyage would end in the largest peacetime maritime disaster in Polish history. The disaster, shrouded in mystery, became the subject of the new Netflix series Eveliusz.
Spora część tego serialu jest dedykowana tej katastrofie i ją pokazuje. Ale też jeszcze większa część tak naprawdę dotyczy tego, co się działo potem. Opowiada o ludziach, którzy zostali na lądzie, którzy stracili bliskich, także o ludziach, którzy przeżyli katastrofę. Jest to nie tylko film katastroficzny, ale jest to też dramat, po prostu dramat społeczny, dramat sądowy.
Although it's a fictional series, the creators put a lot of work into portraying the reality of the events.
Kasper Bajan, który jest autorem scenariusza, przywertował dziesiątki akt, rozmawiał z bardzo wieloma osobami, których ta katastrofa dotyczyła, więc tu jest bardzo dużo prawdy.
The production stands out. It uses a wide range of practical, special and computer effects.
Skala ilości ujęć w pełni cyfrowych, zwłaszcza ujęcia Heweliusza promu płynącego w nocy w pełnym sztormie, to były bardzo trudne ujęcia i takiego filmu posiadających ponad 60 ujęć w pełni cyfrowych nie wiedziałem. Ponadto w całym serialu było około 1000 ujęć łącznie, które wymagały różnego rodzaju cięższych bądź lżejszych udziału efektów specjalnych. Więc pod tym względem na pewno jest to serial wyjątkowy.
The project's skill reflects the dynamism of the Polish film, television and post-production industry.
Ja myślę, że idziemy w bardzo dobrym kierunku jako Polska, ponieważ przynajmniej my z produkcji na produkcję robimy filmy bądź seriale, które mają coraz większy udział efektów specjalnych, co z punktu widzenia stopnia skomplikowania dla nas jest dość istotne, ale też ogólnie jakościowo te produkcje są coraz lepsze, dobrze zrealizowane, coraz większym rozmachem.
Projects like Heweliusz demonstrates the vast talent pool of Polish cinema today.
95% tego serialu powstało w Polsce, polskimi rękami i wydaje mi się, że branża jest konkurencyjna absolutnie w skali europejskiej czy światowej. My tu żadnych kompleksów nie mamy.
The series is now available on Netflix.